My husband is such a mama's boy, to the point where it's basically pushing our marriage apart, and he hits me with some devastating news, guys. Sit back and relax, because this one's a wild story. Hello to everyone who's reading. I'm Yvain. I'm writing this to show entitled men who think women are gold diggers for getting their share after a divorce. I'm also going to share my personal story, so please be a little sensitive before commenting bullcrap. You guys are literally triggering so many women out there. You're also judging women you've left an abusive relationship, and alimony or maintenance is the least they could get for losing all those years in a bad marriage. Men are like, we work so hard on making money and building all those assets. Some of us work hard in a relationship too. A lot of us even leave our careers, and now I'm not speaking for every single marriage, they're all different. But to those who comment on how all women are gold diggers for not making it on their own and instead demanding money from our exes as maintenance, you don't know the other side of everyone's story. Please stop judging women. If we lose our house, the streets are not safe for us. It's hard to even get a job in this misogynistic world. You have all made the world hard for women to live in, and you judge us for demanding support, and I've been in a terrible marriage. My mother-in-law, Debbie, is a jerk, and my husband, Terry, well, he's absolutely no better. I got fired from my job simply because my husband told my boss's wife I was sleeping with him. His wife misunderstood, and he sacked me because she pressured him to, and I stayed at home for a couple of months. And my mother-in-law gave me the hardest time of my life. When I objected, my husband divorced me, and accusing me of trying to separate his poor ill mother from him or infidelity. I managed to prove that the family was toxic, and I got his house in the divorce. This might not sound really grave, but if I go into small details, it might be things in perspective and explain why I deserve to get the house and alimony. We got married 5 years ago and everything was okay until the honeymoon phase ended. Terry worked as a construction worker. He got injured at work and sued the company. The company proved that Terry had been giving warnings to use safety harnesses at work, but he would not listen. Their warnings were issued on paper, and at the time he got injured, he chose not to wear safety equipment. Terry lost the case and his job, and we lost money too. He has not found a stable job since, and I've been the breadwinner in the family. He's changed about 7 jobs since, and a lot of the time he has been unemployed. His jobs are mostly physical labor, so he refuses to do housework. I could never save anything for myself. All my money went towards necessary expenses, and I worked hard on my career as well as all the household chores throughout our marriage. And all he did was fight and vent out all his frustration upon me. Our entire marriage, we've been constantly fighting or bickering about our roles. I could really have done with some help. Debbie expected me to do all the household work, and she defended her son. She expected me to work too because her son is going through a, quote, rough patch in his life. My father-in-law, Lloyd, is a sleazy pervert. He always tried to make passes at me. He'd often touch me inappropriately, even though I was his daughter-in-law, and Terry and Debbie would just dismiss my complaints and gaslight me into thinking that I was misunderstanding Lloyd. I know that's not true because Lloyd, well, he once admitted to me when he was drunk that he often fantasizes about me. I don't have any evidence against him, and he makes me so uncomfortable. Debbie has always been unkind to me. Terry is her only son, but Lloyd has 2 children from his previous marriage. She raised all 3 children, but is particular bias towards her own son, Terry. She's extremely protective of him, and she cries and babysits him even if he gets a paper cut. No matter what Terry does, she'll assume he's right, even though he isn't. This led to her often interfering in our fights and arguments, so whenever we fought, there would be 2 people against me, and they didn't have a way of talking quietly. They just shout in my face and say I was wrong without ever hearing my points of views. I was extremely frustrated at home, and my only solace was going to work. Terry can't cook, so I did not go to visit my parents often. I didn't even have time to go out with my friends. My life had become a living hell. I grew tired of Terry and his parents, and many times I considered leaving him, but just could not bring myself to take that step. Thinking things would change when he got a stable job, things were really broken between us. I tried to make an effort to fix it, but it wasn't working. I decided to leave it up to the time to mend things, only to have it worsen. I started spending more time at work. I thought that if I worked harder, I'd get a raise, which would help my family, and I also get paid for overtime, and the extra amount of money I got allowed me to focus on myself and spend a bit on self-care. It was sudden but enjoyable change in my life, and it did not make me feel better, but it relieved me a little. Terry suddenly decided it's time for us to have a baby. It forced the idea upon me, and I started to avoid intimacy with him. I'd say I'm tired or not in the mood, and soon I got a raise and a promotion for my immediate senior management position. I was delighted, but Terry wasn't. He started to accuse me of having an affair with my boss, Lewis. He put pieces together and assumed I was sleeping with him when I was out working late. He said that he realized my trips to the salon were to look pretty for my boss. Wow. The only reason I got a raise was because I was sleeping with him. Ha! He blamed my lack of interest in intimacy on having an affair with my boss. I tried to explain the whole situation to him, but he wouldn't listen. All I wanted was to give him some room to chase me so that he would love me again, but it just made things worse. He got a new job, and it was a really good one. Things had started working out for him, but our relationship was ruined. One day he gets drunk and goes over to Lewis's house. Lewis wasn't home, but his wife Jamie was, and he told Jamie that Lewis was having an affair with me. Well, Jamie believed Terry, and actually just wanted Lewis to end things with me. He tried to prove his innocence, but she would not listen. He felt pressured to fire me, so I lost my job and had to stay at home after that. I tried to look for a new job, but Terry said that he could not trust me again, and that if I wanted to stay married, I had to quit my career and focus on having kids. The decision was awful, but I did not want to lose my husband, so I decided to listen to him. I thought having a child was the only way to win his heart back. Terry had told the whole family I was cheating, and Debbie gave me an earful and would constantly bring up my infidelity. She would constantly tell me I'm a bad wife and her son does not deserve me. Lloyd made even more advances knowing I would cheat on my husband, and I told everyone what Lloyd was doing and they defended him by saying I'm asking for it by being an unfaithful wife. Debbie said my actions were poor, provocative, and that I was trying to seduce her husband and frame him for attention. I knew all of this was completely wrong. Staying at home and dealing with my in-laws and husband were affecting my mental health badly. I really wanted to work, but that would mean my marriage would end, and I was financially dependent on Terry, and it had never been that way. The drastic changes in my life were difficult for me, and all the joy had been taken out of my life. I was reduced to just house chores, and Debbie would regularly visit my house to, quote, keep an eye on me and see if I was not cheating behind my husband's back. Debbie and Lloyd had started to become insufferable. Every time Terry started to warm up to me, Debbie would make sure it would not happen. Debbie started being around our house all the time, and I could not stand it anymore. I told Terry to tell Debbie she can't always be around in our house and that her presence is annoying me. This led to a huge fight between me and Terry. Terry accused me of trying to get rid of Debbie so that I could have another affair. He said that I was trying to separate his parents from him creating misunderstandings. He screamed that he would not let me succeed in separating, well, his mom from him. He called me a bunch of words for trying to take his mom away from him, and he got up and left the house absolutely enraged. I did not hear from him for a really, really long time. Debbie, she did not visit either, so I grew extremely worried. I called everyone who knew where he was, and I called Debbie too, and she said he wasn't there. I left the house to look for him, only to find out that Debbie lied and that he was at Debbie's house. I confronted them, and Debbie kicked me out of her home. injuring me in the process, so I went back home and for the next few days I kept calling Terry to try to mend things, but he just wouldn't listen to me. I finally gave up and thought that he'd come around eventually, but I was wrong yet again. A divorce notice from him had landed on my doorstep, and it hit me at the moment that I did not need him either. He just didn't care about the marriage I wanted to save. I was furious, I was hurt, I was alone. All my friends had told me to leave him, and I kept defending him and telling everyone he was just frustrated and things would get better eventually. I did not have the balls to tell them they were right. My whole world came crashing down, and I did not have much savings either. I went out to try to get a job, and it was really tough. I realized that I've paid such a huge price by giving up my career for it. The reason I did not have anything saved was because most of the time I ran the household myself with my own money. My stupidity had started taking a toll on me. I realized that I would not be able to sustain myself, so I demanded what any woman would have. I knew my worth and what I've put into this marriage. I spoke to a divorce lawyer, Daniel, and we settled on an amount that he'd have to pay me, which included the house too. I thought the deal was fair, and I gave it my all in marriage, and I thought I did not deserve to go empty-handed after the divorce. Terry did not like my demands. He had collected baseless evidence that I've been sleeping with Lewis, and a lot of other people too. I didn't have much to prove except that I didn't do it. After everything that happened, Lewis did not want to testify in court. He didn't want anything to do with me. The judges had started believing Terry. He hired a really good lawyer, who started becoming helpless because I was running out of money too. I wasn't having any luck finding a job either. I started working as a cashier for the time being. Desperate, I showed up at Lewis's house for help, and I begged Jamie to listen to me. She finally gave in and agreed to listen to what I had to say, and I explained to her our marital problems from the start. I told her how I spent more time at work to earn more, and how peaceful it felt to be away from home. I even had texts from Debbie and Lloyd showing their behavior towards me. I cried for their help, and Jamie sympathized and apologized for misunderstanding her. Lewis backed what I had to say and also apologized for being a coward. He said that he didn't know I was going through all that, and that I was one of his best employees. Lewis helped me by testifying in court, and he pulled out an old camera footage from the office to prove I was in fact working and not doing what Terry was accusing me of. Jamie testified in my favor too and told the judges how Terry manipulated her into believing I was sleeping with her husband. We argued that the whole process made me lose my job, and Terry propelled me to stay at home and not work. My lawyer also encouraged me to speak against Lloyd and Debbie. I had collected all the evidence that I could find. I even had a few calls recorded on my phone about how Debbie would torment me and how Lloyd would behave like a complete sleaze. I broke down during the trial and remembered everything upsetting that had happened to me over the years. It really puts things into perspective, and, showing how awful the marriage was. I had not thought about it much because I was too busy working on saving the marriage. I didn't deserve to feel uncomfortable because of my father. My mother-in-law can't expect me to be perfect, whether her son is nothing compared to me. My husband should have supported me, but he didn't. Thanks to Lewis and Jamie's help, along with my lawyers, I won the trial against them. They ordered Terry to give me the house and a lump sum of money, and Terry was also guilty of mentally harassing me. Along with Lloyd and Debbie, they paid a huge fine for their misdemeanor to save their butts from going to jail. I didn't know where they got the money from, but they paid every single penny. During my divorce proceedings, I had formed a really good bond with Lewis and Jamie. We became close friends, and they really supported me. Jamie felt really guilty for believing Terry, which cost me my job, and Lewis offered me my position back since my replacement was on a temporary basis. I was thrilled to have my job back. I really loved my job. I felt a certain kind of tranquility after the divorce, and I earn for myself now and spend most of the time taking care of myself. I do feel really lonely, and I dreaded this feeling a lot, which is why I did not leave him. I thanked him in my mind for sending over the divorce papers because I never would have taken that step. I would really advise all the ladies to take a step back. I didn't really have to explain myself or any other woman who takes maintenance or alimony after the divorce. But this was important because judging us or calling us gold diggers, it really hurts. I needed to tell my story to let people know the other side of it. You might have worked really hard to earn all this money, but people work hard to sustain a relationship too. I gave up my career and spent most of the money on him when I could have worked and bought myself my own house. I was also harassed by my husband and his family with no amount of money could compensate for. If anybody wants to share their story, this is the right place and time. We're all here to help. After my divorce, I realized how important it is to have support systems. If anyone's going through something, we're all here, and I'm reminding everybody again. Keep the comments kind and supportive, please. Thanks for reading my story. I hope it changes people's perspectives. Update number 1. Hey guys, I'm so overwhelmed at the support I've received from people. It's also very upsetting to hear the stories of what people have been through. Some people have not even gotten anything after a divorce, and I feel extremely grateful. I tried to respond to everyone as much as I could, and I'm here with an update because I thought the divorce was the end of all the drama, but it turns out it was not. Terry started calling me and constantly blowing up my phone. He would drunkenly call and text all the time, and he even accused of lying in court and snatching his house and all his money for my own convenience. He called me a cunning, money-minded jerk, and he also called me a gold digger for sleeping and taking favors from his boss. He vowed revenge and said that one day he'd prove I was having an affair with Lewis. He kept calling and saying all this over and over again, and he called Lewis too on multiple occasions. We stopped picking up his calls, and he called me from multiple different numbers. When I would not answer, I had my number changed. He started approaching me in the streets. I couldn't believe this was the same man that I loved. I was extremely frightened of him, so I contacted the police and had them place a restraining order against him. They warned him to stay away from me or they'd put him in jail. The restraining order gave me a bit of peace and security, and Terry has seriously just never surprised me. So I wasn't taking any risk. I wanted him as far away as possible, and the quiet did not last for long. It had completely slipped my mind that we did not go through the procedure to transfer the house to me in the settlement. On paper, he was still the owner, so he showed up one morning, shouting his lungs out and claiming I was living in his house. He kept knocking on the very door loudly and told me my cheating butt would not be in there for long as he's called the police and they'd been arriving pretty soon. At first, I wouldn't leave the house, but I opened the door to give him a piece of my mind, and he tried to drag me out in order to kick me out of my own home. The police eventually showed up, and he explained to them and, showed them papers that the house was his, and I had been living in the house. I don't know why he would do something that stupid. I had divorce settlement documents that proved that the house would be transferred to me. To his shock, the police said they weren't here for me, but instead were here to take him. I called the police the moment he came to my house and was screaming. They took him for violating a restraining order and for creating a ruckus in the neighborhood by screaming so loudly. He cried, he begged, but the police still let him go and told them that he'd get the wrong person. He tried so hard to tell them that he was the victim. He was being extremely difficult to handle, and they almost tased him. It was upsetting to watch, but deep down, it was really satisfying for some reason. So, I never wanted that for him, but I had to protect myself and just seriously stop the drama. I immediately took some time off work to complete the documentation for the house. Terry was put in jail and had to pay a fine. Debbie came to my house to beg me to help bail him out, and I said I couldn't do anything and that he brought it up on himself. She called me a jerk and left, and I did not want to be a good person anymore. I could not help Terry anyways. He needs to spend time in jail, so he knows how easy it was with me. I did everything for him, and he needs to live a life of struggle to realize he's doing something wrong. Debbie needs to learn her lesson too for spoiling Terry so much. Look where that's gotten him. For everyone who's in trouble right now, based on my experience, I really believe that karma hits. Just wait for the right time. I'm back in touch with my friends, and they're really thrilled about my divorce. My career is back on track too, and Lewis and Jamie are happy. Terry's in jail, and he won't be in trouble any longer. Well, I'm considering to start dating again. It's a huge step for me, I know, but everyone's been encouraging me to. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments and stuff. It feels so good to be heard and supportive. Update number 2. Hey everyone, to all those who've been asking, I've been great. I'm here right now with a really important update. It sheds some light on the reason behind the divorce. A person in my former in-laws family, who's 41 and female, called to check up on me and asked me how I was. I appreciated the kind gesture and responded. We got to talking and she revealed to me the real reason Terry wanted to divorce me. She said she wanted to do this for a long time, but did not think that I talked to her. She said it was really important to let me and everyone else know how they really are. Terry had inherited a huge amount of money from Debbie's father. Debbie's older brother had died, so Debbie and Terry inherited everything from Debbie's father. It was a substantial amount of money that he did not want to share. He withheld from me the information that he had inherited so much money. He knew that he could live a better lifestyle, but he did not want to involve me in it. He had already asked me to stay at home and manage the household expenses, which were draining him financially. He didn't realize how much I actually spend on bills. Well, instead of asking me to join work again, he just decided to get rid of me and, well, go live his own life because he didn't want to share his wealth or pay for me. He decided to divorce me and accuse me of adultery so he would not have to pay anything. He hired a really expensive lawyer who helped him to collect evidence against me to falsely prove I was having an affair. He thought he was winning and his plan was working, but then things started going downhill and I won the case. He had to give me the house and a lot of money. He paid the lawyer fees too, and the penalties they had to pay also resulted in a huge loss, or else they would have to go to jail. The whole thing backfired on him because he had lost so much of the inheritance in the divorce. Things weren't going as planned, and he lost the house too. He was running out of money sooner than he thought, and he was frustrated that his plan didn't work. Terry could not cook and clean for himself, and Debbie saw him for the man-child that he was and would not do anything for him like I did. Terry wanted the house back because he could not afford one, and his parents' house was too cramped. So, he decided to harass me into getting the house back. Lloyd also did not want Terry to live at his house because he was living like a freeloader. Terry thought he successfully could call the police and have me arrested so that he could get the house back. I can't believe he could be so stupid. He got himself arrested and had to pay a fine for violating the restraining order, and his greed led to him losing a good wife like me. His house, his money, and his job too, and he wanted to take the roof off my head and simply kick me out. But, well, everything backfired and now he's the one suffering. I feel guilty for being so happy to see him suffer, but he deserved it. And I'm only human. I also told the person to spread this to the whole family so they knew Terry and Debbie's true colors. And to humiliate them a bit further, people need to know how greedy they are and to stay away from them. The shocking revelation made me feel better knowing that I dodged a bullet and that it was not my fault. My alleged affair or the fact that I was trying to separate him from his parents that led to my divorce. He was just greedy and wanted to blame me for everything. If he had not done all that, he would have been leading a much happier life, but everything happens for the best, and I'm the one living with all the benefits of the divorce. I'm a free person with my own will, and he's in jail. I really appreciate the comments, and I know I've not been able to reply to all them, guys. I'm sorry for that. I'll make sure I do in the next few days. Update number 3. I can't believe I'm here again with another update on my ex-husband. I keep thinking he's left my life, but I'm proven wrong again and again. The whole thing is so frustrating. Lewis and Jamie are supportive but maintain a certain distance from my problems and try not to get involved because Terry is absolutely crazy. Let me all tell you everything that went down in the past month. Debbie managed to pull some strings and spend a huge amount of money to get Terry bailed out. Debbie did not earn anything but was in debt. She had borrowed the sum of money from somebody and wanted Terry to pay them back since she got him out of jail. Lloyd would not help either, since he did not have that kind of money. All of the money Terry had inherited had been spent, and he still had to pay more to the person Debbie borrowed money from. Terry was under immense pressure. He got fired from his job when he went to jail, and now they won't take him back. It was hard for him to find a job anyways, and now he had to backtrack record, too, since he went to jail. Debbie and Terry had dug a hole for themselves since the lender was threatening to put them in jail for not paying back the whole amount, and now Debbie and Terry would both go to jail. Terry was helpless, broken, and dead. He didn't know what to do. So, he came back to my doorstep crying and begging me to take him back. He apologized for everything that he's done and told me he knew I was innocent and that I did not have an affair. Well, I made him admit to leaving me so that he would not have to share his inheritance. I took my revenge by humiliating him, by making him admit everything on the streets in front of the neighbors who were watching. I even took out my phone and recorded it. It was all satisfying. He said that he would be lonely without me and begged me for forgiveness, and I told him I would not take him back, and that he deserved everything he got. I closed the door on his face and told him to leave or I'd call the police. He left upon hearing the police because he was too scared to go back to jail. He can't last in the jail cell. Terry would not get a job, and he had to work as a waiter to make ends meet and repay the loan that Debbie took. A friend who works there told me, well, he's useless, and his manager would often shout at him, and he probably realizes the struggles now that he has to live on his own. I was broke and struggling when he abandoned me, and now he has to face the same, and I just hope he realizes how I felt. I'm definitely not going to take him back. I really hope I meet another guy, but now I'm not scared of being alone anymore. It's not that bad. And I literally have zero drama in my life. I take care of myself, and you can see a visible difference. I get so much attention as opposed to when I was with him. I got back the self-esteem that Debbie had lowered, and I can't believe he thought I would take him back after everything he did. Where does he get the audacity from? I really wonder. I love this newfound confidence I have. I felt like I'm a changed person. A lot of you pointed out that some parts of how I was treated by my husband and in-laws were my fault. Well, I agree, and realized that it actually was my fault. I've definitely learned a few lessons that I'm going to share, and I hope they help whoever needs to hear them. Don't let anyone walk all over you. Leave when you can. A man showing perverted behavior is a complete no, and it can affect your mental health worse than you think. Equality is really important in a relationship, so don't go out of your way to do things they would not. I hope this will be my final update on Terry. I would really like to thank everybody who supported me throughout this. Wow, so this one is the definition of karma. I'll be honest though, the comment section is very, very interesting on this story. Some of the people were saying how OP kinda went too far and they were actually feeling sorry for the mama's boy. But there were other commenters who were obviously against that thought. I want to run it by you. Here's the question. Do you think the mama boy of this story got everything he deserved, or, well, you feel bad for him? Let me know your exact thoughts in this, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's story. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day. And if you want to be a part of this, all you have to do is click subscribe. Only about 50% of the viewers are currently subscribed to the channel who watch the videos. Just know it really helps support the channel if you just click that subscribe button. It only takes a few seconds to click that button. Thank you once again. Remember, it's cool to be kind. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.